Good morning, everybody. Today, we need to talk about failure. But first, now that I'm done being dramatic, I'm going to get a cup of your chow. I'm sorry, and I owe you an apology.
I've put making this video off for a really long time. So let's just go through some of the things that didn't turn out the way that they were supposed to and kind of see where we can go from here. The first one, and probably the big one, because that's kind of the recap for this video, is the 30 days challenge that I did back in March.
I was going to take one picture and post it every day for the entire month of March and then post a video about it. I'll sum it up quickly, real quick. It was a good challenge. It was good practice for just taking pictures, but I found myself, especially with everything else going on, having to force myself to take pictures. And I was really starting to lose my artistic integrity. I was taking pictures for the sake of pictures, and they weren't, for the most part, things that I actually wanted to see or were proud of.
I'm still going to talk about it because I feel not only that I should be honest and transparent, like I made you guys a promise that I would report back to you on this, so I'm going to. But yeah, I think I only ended up taking pictures for about half the days.
What this long period of time between the two has allowed me to do, however, is put in a lot of thinking about failure and how we overcome failure in life, but specifically in our artistic projects. I wouldn't even say it's necessarily burnt out, but this is the first time I've been in front of a camera for a month, and I've taken almost as few pictures.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys too. I deal with some pretty serious undiagnosed mental health issues. So take that with a grain of salt. Anything I say works for me, but it may or may not work for you. Your mileage may vary. I'm not a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm just a normal dude that came up with some coping mechanisms. Another one is the Triumph thing I just did with Empire Cycles for Johnny Walker's Silver King Hard Enduro bike. That did not turn out exactly how I wanted. Don't get me wrong, the Johnny Walker bike build video was so cool. But there's a lot of shots I didn't get that I wanted because I had to go back to work and I didn't get to see the finished bike. Johnny Walker showed up like 15 minutes after I left. It's like 3 seconds in the time lapse. And I had high hopes for it. And I'll just be 100% honest, it is not getting the views that I had hoped that it would. You know, in the back of my mind, so I was like, man, this could be my big break. And here we are. Definitely not a total waste though, because I'm so glad I got to do it. It opened up doors for me for later on down the line. I think we're gonna do some more Silver Kings Hard Enduro stuff next year, and it gave me really good ideas for this whole project that I'm starting to think I wanna call This Is What Factory Feels Like, and make it obvious for people that factory racing, just because you have the support and they're paying you, or you're on the payroll and you have sponsors and everything like that, that a lot of these bikes are good enough. You can just go race them. And I want to show that across the gamut of motorcycles specifically, maybe some cars, but the motorcycles are kind of where I live. And then you have things like the Sturt bike that I bought going on 10 years now. It has 90 hours on it. I've ridden it for real 3 times, and I've really struggled with this bike. I bought it in 2019, brand new 2018 model, so that I could race it for the 2020 season. We all know how 2020 went and how quickly everything got shut down. But then, also, I didn't have a pickup truck at the time. I had a buddy that was riding at the time pretty heavily, and we had an agreement that when he went riding, and he'd invite me, and we'd go together. But then before we could go ride, he caught orders and had to move away. So there went my pickup truck. I traded one of my cars for the Avalanche, and then I needed a transmission replaced. So then I got orders to move, and it just went up to Alaska with me and sat in my garage because during that move, the engine in that pickup truck seized. And then it got shipped back down here as part of my household goods 2 years ago now almost. And it's been ridden once with my cousin as we went out riding for old time's sake. And then it sat in a Connex box for pretty much the entire time. But even the fact that it's a 300, my pride made me buy a 300 because I was going to race this. I really should have just bought a 250. I'm not good enough to really get everything out of a 300 over a 250. And the 250s are easier to ride, at least any of them I've ever ridden. I love this bike, but it is so much bike. It is way more bike than I need. Especially now that it's paid off, what I should do is get everything up and running again and go trade it in on a 250 or a 350 or something in that ball game. But my pride just won't let me do it. Not only do I love this bike, but I have these delusions of grandeur that I'm not going to say I expect to be like the next Graham Jarvis or anything like that, but that I'm going to be able to go out and crush single track like I was younger. But even when I was younger, I wasn't really that good off-road, especially compared to my friends.
You either chose to do something or you chose not to do something. And there are choices that we take day by day. Are we lazy? Are we unmotivated? Are we burnt out and we just can't get off the couch? Yeah, that's probably something to a certain extent that's within our control. The 31 Days project for me was something that I deliberately had to choose not to do. I made a conscious effort to not take some pictures. I think I only ended up taking about half of the pictures that I was supposed to. I think maybe 20 tops. I know there was a lot that I missed, and a lot of them that I was actually pretty excited about, right? There's just things piling up, and while this is important to me, it doesn't compare to the value that I have for those around me. And you can actually see that in a lot of the pictures I did decide to take, where a lot of them were determinant on where I was in relation to my family already. Some of those pictures were taken while I was out filming other videos and things anyways.
I've got film backlogged for like 4 videos now, 5 videos, and it's those little things, those small changes in priority that are going to have to happen eventually, but I'm just not at the time to make that priority shift. So that's why photos didn't get taken every day, is because there were just other things that took priority.
My YouTube schedule has not turned out how I wanted. I want to do weekly so bad, and so far I just cannot do it. Even all of the military stuff, between how relatively poorly my current experience is versus where I thought I would end up after getting out, is completely different. Other things, I'll leave it at the fact that there's a lot of things outside of my control that largely stem from the fact that leaving active duty, I thought I was going to be in Kentucky. And I'm not in Kentucky. So I have to travel once a month all the way to Ohio from Spokane, Washington. And it's getting really old really fast.
What I won't apologize for is prioritizing not only my full-time job, that is my primary source of income, but also trying to support my wife and my kids, because I'm not going through this alone. It's pretty rough right now for a lot of people, us included. I was hoping that when I got back from St. Robert that things were going to be on the up and up, and in a lot of ways they are, but in a lot of ways our situation's not improving. And I'm trying to support them and spend time with them on top of trying to provide them a better life.
And there's 2 sides of the coins here. The first thing is when I am dealing with this kind of failure, I have to remind myself that it was a conscious decision. I did decide to not take those pictures. That's in omission.
I'm not trying to make this too sappy or too emotional or too sappy. You know, I'm a man. We don't do that. We don't share our feelings, but this sucks. This is hard.
And that can make things sound pretty harsh. Like, no, of course I messed up. Of course it didn't work. Like, you messed up, dude. Now, everybody possesses a different ability to process that kind of thing too. But I think it's also really important to remember that there's a reason that we made those decisions. I'm not talking about just excuses. Or you can call them excuses if you want. Whatever. Just back to the 31 days challenge, for example. I purposely chose to spend time with my family. I don't know too many people in my position and situation that have ever been there that would ever say that is a bad thing. We need to remember that. We may have different varying levels of feelings about the decisions that we made, but they're still decisions that we made, for better or for worse. And that's okay. We move on, we learn. Next time I learned that I'm not gonna commit to something like that unless I actually have the free time to dedicate to it. Otherwise, it's just gonna turn out just a bunch of snapshot phone slop that nobody's gonna wanna see and I don't wanna take. I want to take good pictures, and just taking a phone out and taking a picture, taking my camera out even, and taking a picture just because I'm supposed to take a picture doesn't really fit in my workflow. It may fit in others, but it doesn't really fit in mine. And that was a decision I made, and I'm going to live with it. And we all just need to learn the lessons.
You can largely group things into two spheres or circles of control. Things you can control and things you cannot. And that's how my logical brain tries to be more intelligent than my emotional brain and determine how hard on myself I am actually going to be. If it's outside of my control, largely I say, well, it's outside of my control and I just deal with it. That's pretty easy.
But basically, did your artistic project fail because of something you could control? Or did it fail because of something outside of your control? And I think it's very important mentally and artistically to approach both of them with very different approaches.